What's up, YouTube? If you are close to getting your first pull-up but just can't quite get there, today we're going to go over 2 techniques to help you get over that hump. So let's get right into it. We're going with a little Barrio Brewing today, Citrusona IPA. See how it goes. One of the most popular pull-up progressions that people offer when you're trying to get your first pull-up is the negative pull-up.
Negatives.
Negative pull-up?
Negative. Forget it. Negative pull-ups are always suggested by people who can already do pull-ups really well, so they can do it in a really nice, slow, controlled technique. But when you're first getting off, it can sometimes really easily turn into falling with style, and then you're not getting the muscular benefits that you would from a really slow, controlled descent. So don't get me wrong, negative pull-ups can be a really good exercise, but they're often missing context and progressions. So you might be wondering, well, when do I know that I'm ready to do negative pull-ups? Should I just be doing like a whole bunch of banded pull-ups? Should I just be doing a whole bunch of rows? But instead of negative pull-ups, the first technique I'm gonna suggest is doing 90-degree lock-offs. 90-degree lock-offs are exactly what it sounds like. You're holding your arms in an L position at a 90-degree hold. It's basically the middle of the pull-up. The reason that these are so good is because unlike a negative pull-up where you're slowly letting yourself down, this time you have to maintain tension in order to keep yourself up. So you can get into this position by 2 ways. You can either jump into it, or you can use a box or a chair to step your way into it. And here's the basis for this. If you can't hold this position for 5 seconds at body weight, you probably aren't ready for it. That's when you should go back to working on your rows and dead hangs. There's a ton of progressions for the early stages of pull-ups, so I'll link a couple of the ones that I really like in the description below, but there's like a million accounts who have done that before. Feel free to check those people out. So if you're gonna incorporate this exercise into your workouts, I would always start with this because it's probably going to be your most difficult progression. And this is when you're gonna wanna be able to maximize your energy. So you're gonna wanna be doing 3 to 5 sets of 5 to 10 second holds of this. The easiest progression is gonna be 3 sets of 5 seconds each with about 2 and 2.5 minutes rest in between. I know it sounds like a crazy amount of rest for just 5 seconds, but again, like this should be hard effort for you, and so you're going to need that amount of rest in order to be able to put in that amount of effort again. But I'm going to go into a more detailed exercise plan at the end of this and how to utilize this into your workouts. But before that, let's get into our second workout. It's actually pretty good. It's not as hoppy as I thought it was going to be. It's not as heavy for sure. Dude, Barrio Brewing is the best. The second exercise is going to be the assisted pull-up. And I know what you're thinking, like that's pretty obvious. Everyone suggested assisted pull-up, but there's kind of 2 ways that you can do an assisted pull-up. There's the band, and then there's the assisted pull-up machine that you find at some gyms. But it's the way that you do these pull-ups that it's going to be a little changing from what you normally hear. So I hate to say it, but the machine is actually going to be a lot better than the bands. The reason for that is because the band is going to help you a different amount at different points in the pull-up, right? So it's a rubber band. So at the very bottom, it's going to be stretching more than it is at the very top, which means that at the bottom of the pull-up, it's going to be helping you more than it is at the top, which basically just means that it's not an even distribution of assistance, while the assisted pull-up machine it just works on a pulley system. So no matter what you set the weight at, it's going to be that constant weight that it's helping you the entire time. But back to assisted pull-ups in general. The way that you program them is what people are often missing. Remember, when you're trying to get your first pull-up, you're essentially working on your 1 rep max. You're essentially working on like your maximum strength. So you want to program the assisted pull-up the same way that a bodybuilder would program like a squat or like a heavy deadlift. One of the best exercises to do that is the 5x5. The real purpose and the success metrics of the 5x5 is that these should be tough. You really should be struggling by the 5th rep, and you should feel like you need to take a lot of rest in between. What a lot of rest means is generally like 2 to 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes. Whew. So one really easy way to incorporate this exercise in is set a timer, and then every 2 or 3 minutes, just do 5 reps. If you're still working on it, you can even do like 3 or 4 reps. As long as those 3 or 4 reps, you are putting in your maximum effort on. You can set a timer for like 8 minutes, and then every 2 minutes, just do like 4 pull-ups, or just do 3 pull-ups with a band or with the assisted machine. Man, that is really solid. Okay. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this though. How do you actually incorporate lock-offs and assisted pull-ups into your routine so that you can maximize your gains and actually get to your first pull-up? And I'm not even lying on this. You can easily set this up so that you can incorporate it into a half-hour session, and you can bust this half-hour session out 2 or 3 times a week. I would probably just recommend doing it 2 times a week, but let's get into an example. After you go through your warm-up, we're going to jump right into the 90-degree lock-off. Again, these are going to be at body weight or possibly even, I don't know what you call it, like overweight training. You get through your warm-up. Set a timer for 8 minutes. Every 2 minutes, hold the 90-degree lock-off, 5 seconds. Rest of the minute 55s, you're just chilling. For this, if you have like a bike or you have a treadmill, I would definitely recommend getting into cardio at this point. It's a really good way to just like keep your heart rate up without destroying your nervous system or like exhausting your body, just doing something like really light just in the meantime. But after that 8 minutes is up, you're going to be doing 4 sets of that. That's going to be 20 seconds of 90-degree lock-off hold. After that, I would give yourself a little, maybe 2 or 3 minutes rest. Just let your muscles recover a little. You know, put any equipment away that you need. Put away like chair, bench, and like bust out the assistant bands now, or move over to the assisted weight machine, whatever you're working on. And then I would set a timer for 15 minutes. At this point in the 15 minutes, every 3 minutes, do 5 reps. Again, whatever assistance that you're at, this is going to take a little bit of trial and error to figure out what's going to be pushing yourself by that 5th rep, but you're going to be able to maintain over the 5 sets. So this together, even with the rest in between, this is going to be about a 25-minute workout. And again, that's not including any warm-up, and that's not including any additional exercises or conditioning that you want to do afterwards. Within this 25 minutes, it's going to seem like a whole lot of rest, right? Like you're doing an 8-minute timer where you're only doing 5-second hold every 2 minutes. And then even for the 5x5s, you're doing every 3 minutes. Like I said, these should be maximum effort. These should be really challenging for you. So you should feel like you need that. And you can also do some very light cardio. You could do, even if you wanted to do some jump rope, if you're really good about that. I would recommend, I've done this with biking in between. So I just have a stationary bike that I go to and I pedal for maybe like a minute or so in between, hop off, get right back to the pull-ups. Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a little tough to figure out your starting progression. It's going to take a bit of a trial and error. So you might be wondering, how exactly should I progress, or where should I start? So really, I would say it's going to probably take you about a week, maybe 2 weeks to figure out, to really like hone in on what that starting progression is going to be. For the lock-offs, there's going to be 2 variables that you can progress with. It's the time under tension, and then also how much you're holding. So if it's just body weight or if you're holding additional weight. A really good way to measure this is set a timer for, let's just say 8 or 10 minutes, and do the same every 2 minutes you're holding. But first minute, hold for 5 seconds. If that feels good. Second minute, hold for 7 seconds. If that feels good. Next minute, hold for 10 seconds. If that still feels good, now you want to start adding weight. You don't really want to have to hold this for longer than 10 seconds. Once you get past that point, you can really start adding weight. 10 seconds is going to be more than enough time to really like work your muscles and recruit those muscle fibers. So on that 4th minute, if 10 seconds felt good, add 5 pounds, start back over at 5 seconds. Next one, if that feels good, 5 pounds, 7 seconds. And just continue on this until you really hone in on what's going to be your starting progression, or what's going to be your working weight. For how much weight you should be adding, I would go up in 5-pound increments. You probably don't need to do this past 20 pounds. Everyone's going to be different, so I don't want to say that there's a general rule of thumb of like what you can do in a lock off and what that will translate to with actual pull up. But I would say if you want to set a goal for yourself, I would set a goal for holding 10 seconds with 20 extra pounds. That will be a really good indicator that if you're not at a pull up, you're really freaking close. The way that I would hold a dumbbell is I would hold it just in between my legs. You can kind of pinch it with your knees, and then as you bring your heels backwards, you're going to kind of just be supporting it and holding it in place. That's kind of another reason why you don't want to go past 20 pounds. It's just going to get like way too much to hold. You could also use a weight belt, or you can use a climbing harness. That's another really good way of doing it, but you don't always have that, especially if you're going to kind of just like a normal gym. And then you can do the same sort of progression with assisted pull-ups. You can set a timer for every 2 minutes or every 3 minutes, do maybe 5 sets, and then every set use a little less weight, a little less assistance. Keep making it more and more challenging for yourself until you cannot complete those 5 reps or you cannot consistently complete those 5 reps. The rule that I tend to follow with following a progression is if I can complete the progression that I'm on for 3 sessions, then I would increase the next one. And I know 3 sessions probably feels like a lot, but you don't want to move too quickly, too fast. You don't want to progress too fast because you can very easily either injure yourself or burn out, and you really don't want to do either of those. We're working for the long run, right? You want to be able to do a pull-up for the rest of your life. You don't want to just be able to get a pull-up and then 3 weeks later regress back until you can't do a pull-up anymore, right? So remember, we're working for the long term. I'm freaking stumbling over my words. I'm not drunk. If you can get it for 3 sessions in a row, then you can move on to the next one. If you really feel really good, feel free to, not follow that exact 5, 7, 10 scheme for lock off, or 5 or 10 pounds for the assisted pull-ups. Feel free to jump higher if you want. You're gonna know your body best. Do what you think is gonna be best, but make sure you have the progression that you're currently on really dialed in before you move on. So last 2 things before I go, if you're wondering how many times you should do this, I would start off doing it 2 times a week and slowly move your way into doing it 3 times a week. You always want at least 1 rest day in between one of these sessions. A really good one to build up to is like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but maybe start off with like a Monday, Thursday. Like I mentioned with the example, this is only gonna take less than half hour if you do it right. So if you're wondering, well, I go to the gym for an hour, or, I go to the gym for 45 minutes, what do I do with the rest of the time? That's when you start to work on those easier progressions. So that's when you start to work in more rows. You can do bicep curls, dead hangs, anything that's gonna work like you're pulling muscles. And again, check out the description for a lot of examples on people who have talked about how to get into pull-ups. Last thing to mention is that these 2 exercises, if you're going to incorporate them, they should always be first and they should always be after a warm-up. These are going to be the hardest. They're going to be the most strenuous on your muscles, so you want the most energy going into them and you want to be able to put in the most amount of effort. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. Good luck on your journey, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, DM me, reach out in any way, shape, or form. I would love to help you with your pull-ups. I would love to help you, get more gains. I don't fucking know. But if you want to see an example of what I do for one of my normal pull-up workouts, you can click right here. Dude, this still feels so awkward. And I'll be posting a video there soon of one of my exact pull-up workouts that I do after a climbing session. But yeah, good luck and enjoy, my friends. Cheers.